to come to a run club?
If you do something less than 1,000 metres, then I will be there on the door. But how long are they, 5K?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe after Olympics. I really love the challenge of training and competing. I think when you meet most athletes, you'll get either someone who really loves training but hates competing, or someone who really loves competing and hates training. Hi, I'm Laviai Nielsen. I'm an Olympic athlete and I'm currently training for my second Olympic Games. As someone who was training for the Olympic Games, my upbringing was very much centred around the Olympic Games. So Lena and I, my twin sister, we grew up in East London, very, very close to where the Olympic Games were held in London 2012. And not only were the Olympics such a big event for us, but I think everything leading up to Olympics. So even before we'd won the bid, everyone was so excited about the possibility of hosting Olympic Games. And we, for example, our school knocked down a really old building and built a multi-sport playground instead, and they thought, sport at that point was much more important than learning. I would say the hardest thing about being a professional sports person is you set yourself really high goals sometimes, and I think that's natural to do. You obviously want to achieve the best out of yourself, but falling short of those goals is a very low that I think most sports people experience. But in that same token, I think if you set yourself a really high goal and achieve it, or even go beyond that, it's such a satisfying feeling, and that high is really high. And so I think both of those kind of balance each other out. But yeah, I think that would be the hardest thing. I've had one idol pretty much throughout my whole career and before that, and her name was Jessica Ennis. She was a 2012 Olympic champion, and I first remember watching her in 2009. She was aiming for the 2008 Olympics the year prior, but had a very major injury in her foot, and so she had to miss out on those Olympic Games. And she came back in 2009 much stronger, much fitter, much faster, and won the World Championships. And I think that was such an amazing story of perseverance and overcoming adversity. And so, funnily enough, fast forward 3 years, we're at the 2012 Olympics and we're volunteering, and we actually kit carried at those Olympic Games. And what would happen at those Olympic Games is you would just get given a race. So let's say it was the heptathlon 200, race number 4, and then you would line up and just collect any random box. And I picked up lane number 6, and she was actually in lane number 6. So we would go out first, the kit carriers, and then the athletes would line up next to their respective lanes, and she was in lane 6 and she stood next to me, and it was a very, oh my God moment, very surreal. And seeing her up front and up close was just amazing, because I just looked at her, someone who I thought was superhuman, in a way she is, but I just saw her as a normal person then. I thought we could do this too. When it comes to training, I think most people have it within themselves to push themselves and challenge themselves and enjoy that feeling of training. But I think what separates some of the best in the world is how they recover. Because if you can recover well from one day to the next, then you can squeeze the most out of each session. So you're not just pushing yourself day on day on day, it's with everything that you do. And I think that makes a huge difference. I think a lot of people who start up running can drop off it really quickly because it's uncomfortable, it hurts, trying to run day after day when you've just started out is actually really difficult. But if you can start both at the same time, running and recovering after those running sessions, you can feel that difference as you start, and I think that is something that could get people involved in the long run. A lot of people are drawn to something that will help you feel good in the here and now, but I think that's a bit unrealistic. I think there are going to be times where you don't feel 100% and you don't feel, great. But I think that's part and parcel of not just sport but everyday life. And I think what the balm helps with, I think the combination of the CBD and the magnesium really helps to relax the muscles. And I think over time, that's where you're going to see the differences, is how your muscles relax and how you relax. And that's another thing that could lead to better recovery, less stress, not just on the body but also on the mind. And I think something like the muscle and joint balm works really well for something like that. One thing I haven't achieved yet is an Olympic medal. I went to Olympic Games 3 years ago in Tokyo, and we finished 5th in the relay, which was quite sad for us because the previous Olympic Games the girls had gotten bronze medal, and we'd always wanted to improve on the bronze, so to go back a few places was quite sad for us. So I think going into Paris we would definitely love to be on the podium. Coming into an Olympic year is also a very exciting training period. I think you naturally just step it up, and try and look for those improvements. And so the Olympic Games is on our minds every single day, and it would just be amazing to line up on that start line in your very best shape. I'm Laviai Nielsen, and this is why I choose pure sport.